I steal from Sheldon? Oh, I think that's an older expression than that. For what it's worth, I also stole that from another teacher. Wasn't my invention. I see a compass rose north, east, south, west, because I saw the word north. What's the total distance? Well, that's easy. 11 plus 18, 29 kilometers. Yes? Total displacement. Okay. That's going to be 11 north, tip to tail, 18 east. So this is going to be the displacement. Displacement is a vector, so it's going to have both magnitude and direction. If I do the Pythagoras to get the magnitude, it's going to be the square root of 11 squared plus 18 squared. Has a magnitude of 21.1. That gets you 1 mark. Kilometers. At color. Opposite, adjacent. Looks like it's going to be tan theta equals 18 over 11. So it's going to be inverse tan of 18 over 11 in brackets. 58.6 degrees. North of south, east of west, what of what? Going to be east of north. Or if you drew the 18 first and then you drew the 11, you would have 31.4 degrees north of east. I would take that as well, but you're still going to have the same magnitude. The way I would mark this, I would give you 1 mark for the magnitude, half mark for the theta, and a half mark for the what of what. Number 2, a boat heads due east at 16 meters per second across a river that flows due north at 8 meters per second. I need to dulp. So the river flows north, so the river is going to go this way. The boat's heading this way at 16 meters per second. River is going this way at 8 meters per second. This is a little different from the example we did in the notes. The example that we did of a boat going across the river, I gave you the resultant and we found the components. Here, I think they've given us the components. We're going to find the resultant. All year, as far as I'm concerned, if I show you how to do a question in one direction, it's fair game for me just to reverse the question, like giving you the resultants and saying find the components. As far as I'm concerned, I can now give you the components and say find the resultant. So it's going to be 16 plus 8. There's the resultant. When I do the Pythagoras, it's going to be the square root of 16 squared plus 8 squared. 17.9 meters per second. At color. Opposite, adjacent. Looks like it's going to be tan theta equals 8 over 16. And I get 26.6 degrees. North of south, east of west, what of what? This will be north of east. I would also accept 63.4 degrees east of north. That would be if you drew the 8 first and then you drew the 16. Just as before, 1 mark for the magnitude, half mark for the theta, half mark for the what of what. B, if the river is 155 meters wide, how long does it take the motorboat to reach the other side? George, this how long, is it asking me to find a D or a T? I know I caught you zoning out, so I picked on you. Part B, this how long, is it asking me to find a distance or a time? How do you know? Because they gave me a distance, right? Okay, so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say t equals question mark. D equals 155. We said that A for the river and airplane questions is going to be 0. Which V? Well, the 155 would go in my picture like that, horizontally. So I'm going to use a horizontal velocity, which is the 16. It's going to end up being dx equals vxt, no plus a half at squared, because a is 0. It's going to end up being t equals 155 divided by 16. 155 divided by 16, and I get 9.6875. I'll call it 9.69. How far downstream is the boat? Okay, downstream, that's going to be in this direction. That's a dy. So I think I'm going to go dy equals vyt plus a half at squared, but a is still 0. So I guess I'm going to use the 8. I'm going to write 9.69, but I'm going to use my answer button. 8 times answer button. And I get 77.5 exactly if I use my answer button. If you didn't use your answer button, you probably got 77.4 something or 6 something. Number 3. 1 mark for each of those. Number 3. I see a compass rose. 67 degrees west of north. West of what? North. West of what? North. West of what? North. I'm going to start out drawing north first. I'm going to go west of north, which I guess is that way. How far? 67 degrees. And now I'll draw this one in blue. I can break this up into horizontal and vertical components. This is a force of 140 newtons. Since it's a force, I'll call this Fx. I'll call this Fy. I'll find Fy, and I'll find Fx first. It's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. It looks like sine 67 equals Fx over 140. 140 sine 67. And I get 128.8, so I'll call it 129 newtons. It looks like Fy is going to be cosine FYI. So cos 67 equals Fy over 140. Multiply the 140 over, or since I just did that, I could just backspace and change the sign to a cosine, and I get 54.7. 1 mark for each of those. If you forgot units, I would take a half mark off. A sled is being pulled along the ground with a rope. Makes an angle of 72 degrees with the ground. So I guess this angle here is 72 degrees. That force is 117. I can break this up into Fx and Fy. Opposite hypotenuse. Fy is going to be sine. Not sine of 117, Mr. Duick. Sine of 72 is Fy over 117. So Fy ends up being, that's a typo, 117 sine 72, Mr. Duick. You got 111.3, 111? And I think fx is going to be, yes, of course it is, cosine. Could have just backspaced, Mr. Dewick. 36.15, so if I go to 3 sig figs, 36.2. 1 mark for each of those. Number 5. A hiker walks 25.6 kilometers at an angle of 65 degrees south of east. South of what? East. I need a compass rose. South of east. Sarah, I'm going to go east first. I'm going to go south of east, 65 degrees. It looks like this is my triangle, where that is 25.6. And I guess this is going to be a dx. And this is going to be a dy. Bit of a messy triangle. This should be a little bit shorter. There. Now they're tip to tail. If I find dx, that's going to be adjacent and hypotenuse. So cos 65 equals dx over 25.6. Dx equals 25.6 cos 65. And I get 10.8 kilometers. I think dy ends up being, Mr. Dewick, sine 65. So if I just backspace and edit, 23.2. Is that right? One mark for each of those. And now we come to the big question. Okay. Airplane flying in a crosswind. Zach, right away I think, all right, V engine combined with V wind, that's what gives me my ground velocity. That's what the radar sees on the ground. This wants me to find the engine velocity. Well, how will I do that? I think I'm going to minus the wind velocity over. If I do that, I'll have VE by itself. Except, how do I subtract vectors? I don't add them. I add the opposite. And I leave the first one. I add the opposite of the second one. Now I've turned it into an addition question. I've turned the page, so I better do a compass rose. Yep. Is it a hand up? Oh, no, sorry. Thought you had a hand up. Just adjusting the hair. Yeah. V ground due west at 250. V wind north at 45. So what's negative V wind? South at 45. 45 is roughly 1/5 of 250, so I'll eyeball it. Okay, I can add these together then. This is going to end up being 250 plus 45. There's the engine velocity. The engine is going to be the square root of 45 squared plus 250 squared. It's going to be 45 squared plus 250 squared, square root. Do you get a magnitude of 254? At, where's theta going to go? Where the vector is originating from. Color, 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 color. Looks like it's going to be opposite, adjacent, inverse tan. Tan theta equals 45 over 250. So shift tan of 45 divided by 250, and I get 10.2 degrees. North of south, east of west, what of what? I would also take 79.8 degrees west of south. If you got that, 7 out of 7. Otherwise, I would do something like this. I would give 1 mark if I saw that. I would give 1 mark if I saw that. I would probably give 1 mark for the vector triangle, 1 mark if I saw tangent, that's 4, 1 mark for the magnitude, 1 mark for the theta, and 1 mark for the what of what. Can you give yourself a lovely score, please, out of 20? If you need to lawyer with me, now is the time.